Please welcome John Bringenberg.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so to be clear, we can't solve global climate change with one or two or three measures, but the measure I want to talk about tonight is that if you do this, you will get this. And for tonight's purposes, let's consider that there are three legs that support our action to address climate change. There's political and governmental actions, there's industry programs, and then there's the will and the action of the people. Now, the first two legs are things we watch happen all the time. We see how challenging democracy is with opposing views, changing party powers. And with industry, we see more and more going beyond the carrot and the stick to overcompliance and 100% goals. That's great. But the third piece is what gets the short shrift, I think. And this is where we need to apply some creativity. We need to cultivate support for building resistance against backlash of special interests, and we need to support the voters and their will. So here's the conundrum. From the Yale's climate surveys, we see deep agreement that there's a climate problem. You see all that green yeses. But when it comes to personal, pocketbook, or voter issues, we see all the red no, 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 no's. And so what can we do? Well, states have a direct data channel to every household, and that is the income tax forms. So we can add a brief section at the end of income taxes that will calculate my environmental impact, and that will then give us the ability to measure, report, and benchmark. Now, when we measure, we're going to be measuring at a household level with information that's already in the tax form, plus a few additional questions. And so each year, as we measure our financial performance, we're also measuring our environmental performance. And so each taxpayer then gets an instant report that compares them with their peers, maybe also around the world. And then because it's an annual thing, it's benchmarking. So once a year, I'll learn whether I'm doing better than last year or not. And because the state will have the aggregate data, the state will also know whether it's doing better or not. And so we know that a lot of people don't pay attention to this information, but I believe there'd be enough participation to move support for the next aggressive action by 10 points or more, and will make voters more resilient to special interest backlash. So will it work? Well, companies like O-Power and Simple Energy have been doing this with electric utility bills, and they claim tremendous success because it's in the aggregate across a lot of population. So big picture, how might it work? Well, over 90% of all tax forms are done with software. And business as usual, each year, nations and states upload code changes to the tax software. So this would just be a bigger code change. This code change would have those questions, but it will also have calculators and tools. It'll have connections to my local programs, and it will maybe link me to my tax refund if I want to use some of that money. So I'll use questions like this to gather information. The additional questions are pretty simple. These are EPA example forms. And but remember that a lot of the data is already in your tax return for a carbon score. The end result is I'll get a feedback report. Everyone will get this. And some people may not go further. It might look like one of these two. But a lot of people will go further. And some of those people are politicians, and some of those people are CEOs, and some are department heads. And they'll get information like this, and they'll be able to see how they compare across the world, like the way Dollar Street does. So consider I have two use cases that I want to explain. So one is, the first one's on behavior. I'll be able to click a link and I'll be able to learn the impact of my diet on carbon and the carbon intensity of some common food groups. The second one is home energy. I'll be able to click a link, learn what a smart thermostat might do in my home, and then bang, I realize there's a program in my community for a discount, or bang, I can use some of my tax refund. Same for solar or community solar. The opportunity for Colorado is really quite large. We could incubate a program like this, gather a few more states to pilot this in 2019, and it might work. And then we'd have a significant global program that was originated in Colorado. So I believe when you give people information and a little bit of direction, they will do the right thing. And this is what you look like when you do the right thing.